All right, so you have a lot of experience, you have expertise, you know how to provide value and results to the marketplace. But if you're like most of the consultants that we worked over the years, you're going to reach a point where you've clearly accomplished a lot, but you're not sure how to really best package, position, place value, and go to the market with all the expertise that you have. How do you pick the right niche? Some people call it niche. How do you decide what you truly want to be a category leader in? And how do you ensure that you are going to the market in the most effective way possible based on all of your years of experience and expertise? So let's break down. And in this video, I'm going to talk about positioning. How do you go to the marketplace? How you want the marketplace to see you so that you can attract your ideal clients? Well, the first thing that we should establish is that broadly speaking, there's two types or two ways to think about positioning. You have what's called vertical positioning, and that's where you focus deeply on a specific industry or a market segment, right? You get very clear about that one specific industry, right, or area of the market. And you go very narrow, you become very specialized. So an example of this would be a marketing agency that exclusively works with dental practices, right? So dentistry, dental, that is what they live, they breathe. Their focus is only on working with dental practices. Now, the opposite of that, or a different direction when we talk about positioning, is called horizontal positioning. And so horizontal positioning is where you focus on a specific skill or service or product solution, but you apply that to different industries. So your expertise isn't not just on the industry, you're actually starting to think about, okay, you have a very clear skill set or a solution, right? A problem that you're an expert in solving, but you're applying that to multiple different industries. And so here, really what you're getting focused on is one need. As opposed to one industry, here you're going about one need across potentially various marketplaces. So an example of this is that maybe you are an advisor to COOs or CFOs, and therefore your focus is not just on the industry, because you might work with COOs or CFOs or CMOs across multiple different industries, but because your focus is the role, as an example, understanding what a chief operating officer is going through, the problems they have, right, their unique situation. And even though they might work in many different industries, their role, the work that they're doing, the challenges, the problems that they encounter, right, the goals they have, the KPIs that they are responsible for, those are likely going to be very similar, if not the same. And so your expertise as an advisor to, for example, COOs would remain the same regardless of what industry they are in. So two ways of thinking about positioning. Again, vertical positioning where you're focused really on the industry, and then horizontal positioning where you're focused much more on solving a specific problem for a specific need, but across multiple different industries. Now, how do you develop your kind of expertise around that? Well, if we think about vertical positioning, really what you're doing is you want to develop your expertise around the knowledge of the industry. The more that you can learn about that specific industry, the more that marketplace will see you as an expert. They will see you as a specialist in your field, which will allow you to attract a lot more of the people in that industry, right? Your ideal clients, because you will be creating content that speaks to them. You will be showing up where they are. When they compare you to other alternatives or providers or consultants in the marketplace, your depth of knowledge in that specific industry will bring you to the top, and therefore they're more likely to want to engage with you. Now, the other benefit of expertise, right, and position yourself as a specialist is that you're typically able to charge significantly higher fees, right? Everyone knows that expert specialists charge higher fees than generalists. So that's the vertical positioning in terms of how to think about developing your skills. When it comes to horizontal positioning, what you really want to get great at and focus on to develop your expertise is solving that one very specific problem, right? Really understanding the need or the challenges of your ideal client, but recognize that there's also value for you in being able to transfer or to pull what you're doing in one industry to other industries. So if your expertise, using my example from before, is working with COOs, you're going to have a broader understanding and knowledge of different industries, because you might work with COOs in manufacturing, you might work with COOs that are part of marketing agencies, you might work with COOs that are in retail or logistics, or fill in the blank. The industry is not as important as understanding the very specific situation that your target client, in this case the COO, is dealing with. Now, if you're a consultant that wants to grow your business and you're looking for a strategic plan for your specific situation, to take your consulting business to the next level, then below this video here somewhere or around the page, you will find a link where you can go to get more information about our Clarity Coaching Program, where we've worked with over 1,000 consultants to help them to grow their businesses, to create better lifestyles and more profitable businesses. So again, that link will be right here below that video or somewhere around this page. Now let's talk about another way to think about your expertise and identifying your niche, and how do you take all of your years of experience and expertise and package, position, place value on that, and get it in front of your ideal clients, or go to the marketplace so that it'll be effective for you. If you're early stage in your consulting business, or maybe you've recognized that your business is starting to reach a ceiling, or you're not clear how to get to that next level, there's almost always great value in looking at how you can refine your ideal client, right? Who to really target, who to really speak to. So this applies both to somebody who's newer to consulting, as well who's been, somebody who's been consulting for a period of time, but wants to break free or get to those next levels. And the reason for that is that the more focused you are around your ideal client, the more that your marketing messages, your content will resonate with them. If you are in a crowded marketplace, the more focus that you apply in terms of deciding your industry or in terms of horizontal positioning, right? Really knowing where to focus, that's going to allow you to rise to the top. That'll allow you to stand out from the competition in the marketplace. So another way to think about this is using what we call the niche scoring method. Now, the niche scoring method, the purpose is for you to take the different areas of focus that you are considering. As an example, maybe you've done quite a bit of work in manufacturing, maybe you've done a bunch of work in retail, maybe you've done some work in pharmaceuticals. Well, how do you decide where to focus? Now, you could apply a horizontal positioning to this and really narrow in on the specific need and then apply that to the different industries. But I will say that the sweet spot, some of the most powerful and effective positioning, comes when you overlay vertical positioning on top of horizontal positioning. So you're actually identifying a specific industry and a very specific type of person that you're going after. Now, how do you identify which of these different industries or areas to focus in on when you have a lot of different experience, right, and kind of track record? So the niche scoring method takes you through, and you can actually score the different considerations, right, industries that you have. So the first criteria, and you'd score these on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being that you have very high, whatever the criteria or kind of item is, and 1 being very low. And then after you've gone through each of these, you total them up and you see where do you have the highest score. Now, this doesn't guarantee that this is going to be the only, or I should say, it's not the only consideration when you're going through and trying to decide where should you really focus. However, as we've taken many clients through this process, they found it incredibly helpful to see, right? And it's not just I think anymore, but there's actually some data. There's actually deeper thought going into this. So the first criteria to consider is expertise, right? You want to score that on 1 to 5 across the different industries or across the different kind of, considerations or paths or segments that you're thinking about. And expertise is all about how much expertise do you actually have? Have you spent many years working in this specific area? Have you created a lot of results? Do people view you as an expert in that? So give it a score of 1 to 5. The next is enjoyment. And this is all about, do you actually enjoy working in this area? I've seen many consultants over the years who will score this low and they'll score another industry, for example, high, but they believe that maybe they should focus on the industry where the score is low simply because of there's more money or more opportunity. And that's important to consider. But my belief is that life is too short to do work that you don't enjoy. And so enjoyment is an important criteria because you will be spending a lot of time either going to events, creating content, working with clients, just thinking about this area, whatever it is. And so the more that you can align work that you enjoy doing, the more successful you're generally going to be, because you will end up doing more of it. You'll create more content when you enjoy it. You'll meet more people and go to more events when you enjoy it. And the same thing is typically true on the flip side, that if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to be as prolific or as active in those areas, yet activity is what generally starts to create or compound results for you. The third criteria is demand. So is this an industry or is this a market segment where you believe there will be a lot of demand? Or based on what's happening in the world, maybe there'll be less demand that you can see in the coming years. Important for you to think about. The next criteria is access. And access refers to, do you already have a network? Do you have connections? Do you have people that you can send some emails to or pick up the phone and call, that you can ask for referrals. The more access you have, typically the greater traction you're going to see. And that really means faster results in less time. So when you're considering, is this a market? Is this an industry for me to really focus on? The more access you have, typically, the faster you're going to see results, right? The more successful you're going to be in a shorter period of time. And then the final criteria that I'll bring up today, there's several others that we take clients through, but I want to at least give you some good ones here today to think about, and that is profitability. Now, if you're brand new to consulting, you're not going to know that because you're not going to yet have enough experience to know what kind of projects and what type of clients, what kind of industries, right? What kind of work is ultimately profitable for you. But if you've been consulting for a period of time, then you likely will know this. And it's an important consideration because you could spend a lot of time doing work, and maybe that work is in a specific industry, but the nature of that work is that it ends up being not very profitable for you. Whereas if you compare that to a different type of industry or a different type of work or a different market segment, for whatever reason, in terms of how you engage and what's involved in that project, it might be significantly more profitable for you. That's an important consideration because for most consultants, it's not just about the revenue that they are generating, it is about how much of that revenue can they actually keep and how profitable is their business. So let me give you one other consideration as you think through identifying your niche. And that is ultimately, this really all boils down to you identifying one big problem that your ideal clients have. Now, what I've talked about so far in this video, hopefully that started to help you to identify which direction you should go of who your ideal client is. And so once you're clear on that, you also want to make sure that you answer the question of what is the one big problem that they have, right? That they want to solve. Once you've identified that, write that down. Next, write down what is your process to solve that problem. As a consultant, as an expert, you likely have, even if you haven't yet written it down, so start doing this, think through what are the steps that you take a client through to get them the result they want, to solve that problem that they have. And what is unique about your process compared to others in the marketplace. And then the third part of this is it's really imperative that you can communicate the outcome and the value and the result to the client when you solve that problem. So what is the one problem that you are world-class at solving? What is the process that you use to deliver that result and give them the outcome that they want? And then what is the actual outcome? So when they solve that problem, how will they be better off? That helps you to start to form your business case. And in the world that we're in right now, where consultants, or I should say buyers of consulting services, have a lot of choice, and that's not going to change. It likely will only increase. You being able to develop a very clear business case of how they will be better off will help you to win significantly more business. Now, again, if you're a consultant looking to grow your consulting business and you want a strategic plan for your specific situation to help you to take your business to that next level, click on the link below this video or somewhere around on the page that you're on, or head over to consultingsuccess.com and reach out. We'd love to hear from you and speak with you about your specific goals, your challenges, your situation, and how we can help you to get to that next level.